Support for the Leadoff on WGLT and WGLT.org comes from the Central Illinois Regional Airport, connecting Central Illinois to the world with daily flights on American Airlines to hubs in Dallas and Chicago. Close, convenient, CIRA. More at CIRA.com.
Illinois manufacturers are looking for more certainty amid ongoing tariffs. It's one of the things you need to know to start your day for Monday, October 6th. I'm Ryan Denham, and this is WGLT's The Leadoff. Now let's lead off with a lobbying effort to help manufacturers in Illinois deal with ever-shifting tariffs. More from WGLT's Eric Stock.
Many manufacturers across the state are struggling with higher costs and more uncertainty due to tariffs. That's according to Mark Denzler, president of the Illinois Manufacturers Association. Denzler says many companies are deciding whether they can afford to absorb those costs or pass them on to their consumers.
Some companies have reduced CapEx spending. They have not hired new, or they put a freeze on hiring new people, particularly when we see companies that are making a product that's sold to consumers. You think food products, for example.
Denzler says tariffs have hit Illinois agriculture especially hard as farmers face higher input costs and fewer markets for their commodities.
Commodity prices are down. The farmer's not making as much money. Their costs are going up. It's more expensive to buy that tractor or that combine. So really the ag sector is really particularly struggling right now.
Denzler recently led a delegation to Washington to lobby Congress to push for more trade deals. Denzler says if the U.S. wants to rely less on foreign markets, it'll take time to build the infrastructure needed to make more in America.
I certainly think, particularly with the supply chain issue that happened in COVID, we're really seeing now, I think, a concerted effort to build facilities here, to expand facilities here, to make sure we're not so reliant on supply chains that are global.
But Denzler says companies with a global customer base may find it more practical to build outside the U.S. For The Leadoff, I'm Eric Stock.
Here's some other stories we're following in the WGLT newsroom. The final tally of job cuts at the Bridgestone plant in Normal is less than first thought. And United Steelworkers Union Local 787 President Jason Beckett says it does not involve layoffs. Beckett says more than 60 workers have accepted buyout offers. William Bessler announced he'll run as a Democrat to fill a vacancy created by Crystal Abel's resignation from the McLean County Board. Bessler works as a grants manager for the city of Bloomington. And the Panagraph newspaper has informed readers it will no longer print a Monday edition of the paper starting next month. The paper plans to continue an online edition on Mondays. You can find more on these stories at WGLT.org. One of the reasons President Trump has targeted Chicago is because of sanctuary laws in the city and Illinois that protect immigrants. But the concept of sanctuary is much deeper than the political shorthand we've come to know. Gina Perez has studied it extensively. She's a professor at Oberlin College in Ohio and wrote a book last year called Sanctuary People. Perez visited Normal to speak at Illinois State University for its Latinx Heritage Month celebration. She says the word sanctuary is incredibly polarized.
Sometimes what's lost is the longer history of sanctuary as a practice. This is a practice that has been going on for millennia, like thousands of years. In ancient times, there were sanctuary cities and sanctuary designations that the Hebrews, were able to turn to in moments of trying to mitigate different kinds of conflicts. There were shrines and physical places that were places of sanctuary in ancient Greece, shrines to Diana and to others. And in all these instances, sanctuary practices were ways to invoke the transcendent and the divine to address abuse of state power or the imposition of state power, as well as to mitigate different kinds of struggles and tensions and conflicts and rivalries that existed among people.
Your most recent book, Sanctuary People, was released before President Trump returned to office. How have these past 9 months affected your view of sanctuary, seeing how things have played out the way they have?
In a lot of ways, it's just affirmed what I observed during the first Trump administration. I think we're also witnessing kind of an amplification of what was planted in that first administration. And I think that one thing that has been very clear to me is that in a lot of ways with the current administration and the ongoing threats to punish sanctuary jurisdictions, and not just the threats, right? So just yesterday in Chicago, we saw ICE agents patrolling Michigan Avenue and all throughout downtown Chicago, apprehending people. And we saw people who were following ICE agents recording their actions and who were challenging them, telling them to go home. And so I think in a lot of ways, what I was documenting and trying to understand from 2016 to 2020 offers us some kind of blueprint or a foundation for understanding what are the ways that people can respond to this ongoing assault on immigrant communities. And one of those ways is drawing on long histories of resistance and struggle and organizing to create coalitions and to remember the value of faith-based organizing as one of the important, crucial spaces for resistance.
You know, you work on a college campus. Well, I work on a college campus. We're sitting on one right now. I wonder how well you think college campuses in this country are responding to this moment and how it fits into the broader campus sanctuary movement that you're familiar with. How well this system, this network is holding up at this moment?
Well, as you know, college campuses right now are the object of a lot of federal scrutiny and a lot of attacks. And I think that has had a chilling effect on the ways that college administrators feel that they can be vocal about the support for their immigrant students, right? So attacks on academic freedom, attacks on, the federal funding, and the different kinds of funding that, a lot of colleges and universities rely on has really had an amazing effect on college campuses as people scramble to try to figure out how to still do the work that we do, the important work we do, which is to teach, to engage our students in critical thinking about some of the most challenging and important questions of our day, and to do so without further imperiling these sacred spaces, right? And so for me, this is, I think, a really important question because I think the work that we do in colleges and universities is sacred work. And given what we have seen in the last few months in particular, by the current administration and the attacks on colleges and universities, that has made the work of offering support for our students challenging in that we have to find new ways to talk about that work. We need to balance, I think, a desire sometimes from some about trying to be vocal about our values and to pronounce them in ways that can assure our students with, I think, trying to be prudent about when are we vocal and when are we trying to be more judicious about what we say and what we do. And so I see this is a very different moment than we were in 2016 when, I think people were presidents were willing to sign onto a statement affirming a sanctuary campus designation. We don't see that happening right now.
The term sanctuary has been used in other contexts. Some conservatives have even embraced it to propose things like Second Amendment sanctuaries. How do you feel about the word being used in those other contexts and how it impacts the broader understanding of what sanctuary means?
There's also been different campaigns to create sanctuaries for the unborn, in places like Texas and Ohio and throughout the United States. And to me, that's a really interesting question because it underscores that there's power in this idea of sanctuary. I think the co-op, what I would say is the co-optation of sanctuary language by the political right it affirms that people are doing something that's threatening and that's something that threatens kind of the status quo and that challenges a secular authority that wants to strip people of their rights, that wants to punish people who want to help others in order to protect them. And and then just, I think, reinforces the idea that this is a very powerful idea.
I'm going to actually circle back to something you said earlier. You're referencing this activist in Columbus, Ohio, who said we are all called to be sanctuary people. How do we do that?
So one of the things that I really learned from doing this research and continue to learn in the work that I've been doing with activists is that sanctuary people are not born, but are continually made. And they're made through practices big and small, and especially the small ones, right? So showing up, to a meeting to learn about what's going on in your community, showing up at a religious service, perhaps, or a prayer vigil in support of community members, maybe who are impacted by different kinds of policies, writing letters to the editor, trying to be involved in your local city council to ensure that there are policies in place to protect all members of your community. Like, those are all really small, but ultimately kind of habituated practices that create something bigger, right? And so no one is born a sanctuary person, but we make decisions every single day about how we show up for one another.
That's Gina Perez, a professor and author from Oberlin College in Ohio. We spoke to her during a recent stop at ISU for Latinx Heritage Month, which runs through October 15th. Before that you go, the Normal Town Council meets tonight at 7 at City Hall. On the agenda is a contract with Axon for hardware and software for the Normal Police Department, with a net cost of around $5 million. And that is it for today. I'm Ryan Denham. You can subscribe to the Leadoff on the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts.
In a crowded media landscape, public radio brings you something different.
I'm a Foodie is a traditional Japanese folk song. It's about a child that is caught in the rain.
Human stories and epic tales.
The water was very cold. There were constant waves, and the wind blew for 10 days.
Help keep NPR and this station one of a kind by making your gift today. Thanks.
Stand with a free press when you donate at WGLT.org.